Hey, History of St. Louis. Welcome to the Hill neighborhood. This presentation is going to kind of go over the answers from some of the questions from the Hill web quest and let you see some of the topics that you had to answer on that for your own eyes. So let's get going here. The first answer is the boundaries of the hill. A lot of people think that Highway 44 is one of the boundaries, and that is not correct. The Highway 44 was built right through the middle of the hill. So the northern boundary is Manchester Road, Highway 100. Your uh, eastern boundary is Kings Highway. Your western boundary is Hampton, and then your southern boundary is Southwest, which then turns into Columbia. So for that one, you'll list both of those streets, Southwest Avenue and then Columbia Avenue. And so that is the neighborhood that makes up the hill. Um, One of the things that you had to answer on toward the back of the worksheet, the web quest, was what attracted the Italians to the Hill neighborhood, and the answer to that was the clay mines. And so clay, as you can see here, is very abundant in that Hill neighborhood. And what happened was those Italians would work these clay mines, digging it up, packing them into brick forms, firing them, and basically making brick. And remember, that's a hot commodity in St. Louis after the Great Fire of 1849, when St. Louis banned the building of wood, and so we turned to brick. And we turned to brick because we had all of this clay in the area. This is one of the brick factories. As you can see here, one of the problems with brick factories is they put out a whole bunch of pollution, namely smoke. And so the Hill neighborhood was not very desirable because you were basically, your next door neighbor was this giant brick factory that was bellowing out smoke. That's why the Italians lived there, because they could get those jobs, and nobody else wanted to live in that neighborhood because of its proximity to these factories. That's why it made it such a cheap location for these new immigrants to live in. But it did provide them with an occupation. It did provide them with cheap housing that was relatively close to the downtown area. And so that's how it becomes the Italian neighborhood. Here's a picture of some of those Italian mine workers. Um, so there you go. One of the other questions on there was what style of architecture is the neighborhood known for, and that is the shotgun house. And this is a great picture of what shotgun housing looks like. As you can see, it is a narrow, rectangular house that fits on a small piece of property, and it gets the name shotgun because when you open up the front door, there is a hallway that leads straight back to the back of the house. And so it is said that you could shoot a shotgun through the house and not hit anything. By the way, that hallway is also known as a shotgun hallway. And so this was a popular form of architecture for the hill because you could fit a whole lot of houses on a small piece of property, which then made the price of that house relatively cheap. And so they had to do that because this was a working class neighborhood. And you can see that there is very little space today, and back then, between houses. You almost could reach out the side of one house and touch your next door neighbor. You also notice that there are no driveways. There's very little front yard, no side yards, and in some of these you have a little bit of a backyard. And then those backyards, some of those backyards they added in the 50s and 60s, they added detached garages for cars. But this is the classic form of architecture for the Hill neighborhood. You did have a little patch of front yard. You'll also notice that many of these houses have an elevated front porch, and the houses are elevated off the ground. That is because back in the day when these houses were built, they would flood very easily because there was no grass and it was just these houses built on these mud and dirt fields. And so whenever there was a major rainstorm, or in springtime when you had consecutive days of rain, things would flood very easily. And so these houses had to be built above the ground. So a lot of these houses are built 2, 3, 4 feet off the ground, and are elevated, and have these beautiful front porches. The porches also served as an alternative sleeping place in the hot summers. Most of these houses were built before air conditioning, and so in the heat of the summer, these houses would heat up during the day, and oftentimes they were very uncomfortable at nighttime, and so families would literally sleep on their front porches or in their front yards, or if they were close to the park in the Hill neighborhood, they would literally just go camping out at the park because it was much cooler to be outside than it was inside. You also see just how far back these houses go. Most of the time, the floor plan is at the front of the house, you have the living room, then you would have probably a dining room, then you would have bedroom, and then a bathroom, and then another bedroom, and then at the back of the house, you'd have the kitchen. So many of these were 2 bedroom, 1 bath, maybe 3 bedroom, 1 bath. Front room was almost always the living room, and the back of the house was almost always the kitchen. And most of these houses were 1 story. You will see some 2 stories these days, but most of them are 1 stories, as you can see right here. Many of them made out of the same brick that was created in the neighborhood. And this style of housing is still around in the Hill neighborhood today. Here's an old shot in the 70s of what these would have looked like. And again, you can see the elevated stature of these. Some of these, that crawl space underneath has been converted into a basement, but most of these, it's just a crawl space. Maybe they have a window there just for access for the crawl space. But most of these houses, many of the houses, if not most of them, were not built with a basement. That would have been added on later. The church in the center of the Italian neighborhood, because this is Italian Catholic, would have been St. Ambrose. The style is Lombard Renaissance or Lombard Romanesque. It is copied off of a church in Italy, and then the materials used were obviously brick and the terracotta roof. All of this would have been from the clay mines in the neighborhood itself. This is the cornerstone of the neighborhood. If you did not go to public school and you went to private school, you most likely go to St. Ambrose. And it is still a very Italian church today. Just outside is the famous statue of the Italian immigrants. We'll get back to that in a second. This is what it looks like from the inside. These are actually not marble. This is just faux marble, made to look like it, but they're just really a material that looks like marble, and then they're relatively hollow inside. Very bright colors. The stained glass windows do come from Italy. So there is an Italian connection there as well. The Italian statue, hopefully you have the year that it was created and the material. The significance of it and the historical accuracy has to do with a couple of things. Number one, most of the Italian immigrants that came here were limited in what they were allowed to bring. They were only allowed to bring 1 suitcase per family. And so it is very historically accurate that there would have been only 1 suitcase for the family. They literally came with the clothes on their backs. And then the other thing that you'll notice is the lapel that the gentleman has a tag hanging from it. That would have been used at Ellis Island, and those tags would have been color coded. And that color code would have signified what nationality you were so that they knew what line to place you in. So the Italians would have had a color, Russians would have had a separate color, the Polish would have had a separate color. And so it was a way for them to be able to know what line to put you in because you most likely did not speak the language of English. So it was a way to sort of delineate you. And so very historically accurate. The statue is dedicated to the Italian immigrants who moved here in the 1870s, 1880s and helped build the Hill neighborhood to what it is today. So it honors their heritage, memory, and accomplishments. Some other things that the Hill neighborhood is known for were the Italian grocery stores. Today there are three major ones: Volpe's, Di Gregorio's, and I cannot remember what the third one is. Somebody's going to yell at me. These grocery stores were known for their cured meats, salamis, ham, sausages, and then they would have also have had all sorts of pastas and homemade tomato sauces and olive oil, and many of those are still around. Those grocery stores are around today. Restaurants on the hill, some of my favorite picks. Amaghetti's is no longer there, or at least it's no longer on the hill. I think it's been turned into something else, but it was a well-known bakery and sandwich shop. Zia's is still there today. It's a really good pasta house-like, very simple menu, relatively inexpensive, but quality. If you like pasta house, you will love Zia's. Adriana's on the hill is known for its meatball sandwiches, homemade meatball sandwiches. It has a region reputation for those sandwiches. Ragazzi's is primarily known for their beverages that they serve in these giant 32-ounce fishbowl glasses. Mostly those are for adult beverages, but I'm sure you could talk them into doing a soda in there. It has very average food. Their pizzas are decent. O'Connell's Pub is actually the only Irish pub in the Italian neighborhood, known for its cheap, inexpensive, but delicious hamburgers. So I highly recommend that you check out O'Connell's Pub for their hamburgers. Then we go upscale a little bit. LaRusso's Cucina is a great restaurant, a little bit more expensive, a little bit higher quality, but dress can still be very casual. It was one of the first places I took my wife, so it's a great spot to be in when we first met. And it is off of Hampton. A lot of St. Louisans will say that Canetto's is their favorite restaurant on the hill. Unbelievable size portions. Very few times have I ever walked out of Canetto's without a doggy bag just because their portions are extremely generous. The dining room is like it looks like from the 60s and 70s. It looks like it could have been in the Godfather movie. They have that same decor and just a really good place for a classic Italian meal. You also have Trattoria Marcella. For those of you who are in the Parkway West area, you'll know that its sister restaurant is Mia Sorella. Mia Sorella is owned by the same people who own Trattoria Marcella. So really good food in a very casual atmosphere. And then you have your expensive ones where you're going to want mommy or daddy or somebody else paying for you. Charlie Gito's on the hill, a very nice restaurant. Dominic's on the hill and Giovanni's on the hill are very nice. I would say 3 stars and above. As far as the price and the ambiance, you definitely have to dress up for this. Coat and tie for the gentlemen is probably very recommended. Dresses for the ladies, but very good meals. They do a lot of tableside prep, which means that if you order a salad or early pasta dish, they will make it right there at the tableside so that you can have any extras or anything left off and they make it for you right then and there. So very nice atmosphere. This is what it looks like on the inside, and this is, I believe, Tony's, which used to be in the Hill, and then it moved downtown, and now I believe it's moving to Clayton, if I'm not mistaken. This is, for most of the time recently, this is St. Louis's only five-star restaurant. Um, and it is known for its high quality food, high quality service, very nice atmosphere. This is a place that most people will go to once or twice in their lifetimes. If you're lucky enough to go there multiple times, it's very, very good food. So that's our look at the Hill and a little bit about some of the answers that we had from the web quest. Hope you enjoyed this look and have a great day.